Most solo business owners are working way too hard and way too many hours trying to find clients. They've got no reliable system to consistently find and sign up clients. They've got multiple marketing channels, so they're not doing any of them properly. And this is really keeping them stuck. It's slowing down their growth, but most importantly, it's stressful and unenjoyable. I doubled my own income in just 30 days using the 20% method. I went from trying everything with no clear way of finding clients to signing up 6 clients in just 2 weeks. And I was working half the hours. In this video, I want to show you exactly how to achieve a lot more in less time. Also, how to build your own scalable and reliable sales engine. All it takes is clarity over how to leverage your time, your value, and your results. Here's where I was before and where I was just 3 weeks later. Now, before, I had 5 marketing channels. I was working 9+ hours a day. I had no organized process to find clients. I had a really low success rate in signing up clients. I had no clear offer on my services. I couldn't explain what I did well. And this meant it was really unenjoyable doing the sales process. And the result of this, I was getting about 1 client a month. Okay, so it was really high effort and low reward. And then fast forward just 3 weeks, I had 2 main focuses for my marketing. Okay, I was working 6 hours a day. I had a clear and simple system that was repeatable to sign clients. I had a growing credibility, a high success rate signing up clients, and I was enjoying sales. Okay, now with this, I signed, as I said before, 6 clients in just 2 weeks. So it was low effort and high reward. What I learned is there really is a secret to success. There is a much smarter way to achieve more in less time and effort. But most business owners are not operating this way. Most people are operating on the principle that the harder and the longer they work, the more successful they will be. But this means effectively what we're saying is all work has the same value, that no task is more important than others. And now we know this isn't true, but we still do it, okay? And this does work to a point, but it's the slow and it's the hard way. I call this the busy approach. It's when people are working way too many hours on the wrong things and not enough time on what makes money and drives growth. A better model for understanding the cause and effect of our actions is the 80-20 principle. Now, this states that 80% of outcomes come from 20% of our causes or our actions. Think of it like this. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, but a highly successful person is able to achieve much more value in that time, maybe 10 to 100 times more value in the same amount of time. So how have they done this? Okay, it's actually pretty simple. They've just leveraged their time and their value. To do this, they've decreased the amount of time they're spending on low value tasks, and they've increased the amount of time they spend on high value tasks. It really is as simple as that. The more successful we are, the more we can achieve in the same amount of time. So I created the 20% method. Instead of trying to do as much as possible, I focus on doing the high value, high impact things that increase profit and growth. Have you ever wondered how the top people in any industry are able to achieve so much more, to charge so much more, and to scale and grow so much more quick? It's not because they have more time in the day. It's simply they understand what their 20% is. They understand their 20% actions they need to do to scale quickly. They're working smarter, not harder. The great thing about this is it's a less is more approach. And this really fits how I love to live my life. I can now achieve a lot more in less time, so I can really enjoy my life outside of work as well. So I want to break down a lot of this for you now and tell you exactly how you can implement this for yourself. The next method is to set an impossible goal. Now, impossible goals help us figure out the smartest way to get to our result. They really make us think outside the box. Now, what they do, when we set an impossible goal, you want to put yourselves in the shoes of the person who's achieved that impossible goal. That does 2 things really powerfully. One, it shifts your identity. So what you want to do is you want to, with an impossible goal, we want to aim for 10 times where you are now. And it has to be that big, and I'll explain why in a minute. Okay, so aim for 10 times your current income. Okay, write that down. Then I want you to really write down where you are, what you've achieved. Imagine you'll take your whole family away to celebrate for this massive occasion, because it would be massive, wouldn't it? Okay, you take your whole family away. Write about how it feels, where you've taken them. And imagine you've got up early the next day to write about this. You're grabbing a coffee at this lovely place. I often take people to the beach when we're doing this visualization. Okay, so write about that. Really make it feel real on paper. When we do this, we're shifting our identity. Your identity, who you believe you are, how you act, how you feel, the decisions you make based on your identity. And your identity is based on two things. It's all based on your thoughts, okay? And your thoughts are thoughts of the past, okay? Or thoughts of the future. So both of these things. Okay, now we can change the thoughts of the past. We can do this, but it's confronting and it takes time. But you can change your thoughts of the future very quickly. Just by setting a goal, you're changing your thoughts of who you're going to become. When you write that out like this, it becomes very clear. So setting an impossible goal and writing that out changes that, okay? So write it out. And I get my clients to write this out every day, where they're going to be in 6 months' time, okay? Now, another really powerful thing this does is it makes you think of the smartest way to get there. And I want to give you an example of this. A great example of the power of impossible goals is when I went through this with my client, Claire. Now, Claire she was earning 5K a month and she wanted to double that to 10K a month, okay? And she wanted to do this in 6 months. And I was like, brilliant, this is literally what I do. So we started off by putting her in the shoes of the person who'd achieved that, okay, that 2 times growth. When we did that, we realized it didn't quite work. She said, oh yeah, so I was like, so how much are you charging? Okay, this future me is charging maybe 20% more. How about outsourcing? What have you done? She said, yeah, I've outsourced some of my roles. I was like, oh, great. And how much does that cost you? And how much are you able to make with that increased time? And the difference between this wasn't enough, okay? So what we realized was actually with 2 times growth, she was going to be way too busy. She needed to be completely fully booked. It was possible to get to that 10K, but only if she was working a full working week, okay, constantly. And we know that's not realistic. You can't work a full day, a full working week with clients because you have to spend time finding clients and there'll be periods where you don't have clients. So it was an unrealistic model, okay? And it was great that we saw that. And we realized we needed to aim for 10 times growth, to really think outside the box and think different. Okay, so we did that. So we aimed for 50,000 a month. Now Claire was like, whoa, that's really big. I don't think I can achieve that. But we said, let's imagine you can. Okay, what would have to change? So we went through the same process. We put her in the shoes of that person who'd achieved 50K. We said, what are they doing differently? How have they managed that? And she realized, well, she's going to have to work with quite a few more clients. Okay, so she's going to have to scale and outsource. She also realized she's going to have to charge a lot more for her service to allow her to offset and scale. Okay, and then she was like, but how can I charge more for my service? Then she realized she had to change her service. She had to make her service so much more better in order to charge this new price, which she'd come up with. So this is the power of it. Okay, and then she wrote out that new service. She could design it quite quickly. She was like, oh, if I'm going to have to charge that, I'm going to have to really deliver something fantastic. Okay, so she redesigned her whole service based on this exercise. It's incredibly powerful. My task for you is to write this down. Set yourself some impossible goals. It's incredibly powerful. Now, the second part of the 20% method is the leverage system. This is where we really optimize your time and leverage your income. Now, this matters because business owners are way too busy doing low value work. And this leads to a really chaotic and disorganized approach. So in this part, you're going to stop 80% of your low value tasks and start focusing on the 20% that really drives growth and results. So now I want to give you a really cool exercise to figure out your 20% and figure out your 80% roles. We start by writing out every single role you're currently doing in your business. Then we assess each one. So get a piece of paper and write down every role. Then I want you to ask yourself these questions about each of them. Firstly, do you like doing it? Are you good at it? How much time per week are you spending on it? How much income are you making from it? How much could you outsource this? How much could you hire someone to do this task? And then I want you to make a decision on each one. Is it a high value task or is it a low value task? This process gives us so much clarity over where you're spending your time. Okay, I want you to write down everything you do during your workday, even the things time wasting like procrastination. All right, write it all down. This really helps you see your 20% and your 80% roles. Now, from here, we can create a plan on things to stop now. So this is an instant way to get time back. Okay, these things you can stop right now. Okay, the next thing is things to reduce and systemize, to optimize. These are processes you're currently spending way too long on. The next thing is things to outsource. Now, this will likely happen over time, so we plan this into our 12-week plan. Okay, this doesn't all have to happen right now. The great thing is everyone I go through this instantly finds at least 8 hours in their week they're wasting time. Think about that. That's one full day. What could you do with one full day? Okay, so it's an amazing exercise. A great example of this is my client Tom, who realized he was spending 10 hours a week, 25% of his time on tasks that were not and had never brought him income. So he was spending 7 hours a week on Instagram and Facebook, and he'd never had a client from either of those. Now, LinkedIn was where he was getting his clients, so he stopped working on the other two, and he also realized he was spending 3 hours a week on a network that, again, had never brought him a single client. So this exercise also allowed him to see the 20% high impact tasks where he was getting clients. He was getting a lot of his clients from referrals and his current network. So we came up with a plan of spending 1 hour a day reconnecting and nurturing his current network. And in the first 3 weeks of this, he got 4 clients. Okay, so it makes a massive impact. If you'd like to figure out your 80 and your 20%, then I have a 2-minute test you can do online. Just comment leverage below and I'll send you the link. The third part of the 20% method is building your sales engine. Now this matters because most business owners' sales systems is way too complex, unclear, time-consuming, and ineffective, which causes a lot of uncertainty and stress. This is often the #1 stressful thing with business owners. And once this is fixed, we can really relax outside of work with confidence that your business is going to keep growing. Now, the first big obstacle that really holds most business owners back is their mindset of belief that they can double their income. Now, I want to get you over this right now. The first part of this is that belief that you can double your income. Now, think about this. Every business owner can double their income. Okay, even Elon Musk, okay, the richest man in the world, is doubling his income all the time. Okay, so there's the capacity, the possibility, it is achievable for you to double your income. But the really important thing to understand is, provided there are people in your industry earning at least double your income, then we know it's possible. We know it's achievable. And also, we know that you can do it. So that's a really important thing, is believing that it's possible. And writing this down is a great way to understand that. So writing down that it's possible, putting it in your own words. So now you believe you can, you've got to want to do it. Okay, and this is a really important thing. Now, I only work with clients who want to at least double their income over the next 6 months. And that's because you need to be ready to do this. You need to be willing and ready to step up into a better version of yourself. So shifting into the mindset of someone who can charge and earn twice as much as you're currently earning is a really important step. I want to explain exactly how to build your own sales engine. Now, there are 4 sections here. Each one can really transform how you sell and can allow, with each of these, you could easily double your income if you do them properly, okay? Each one. Now, the first one is you need to find your 20% customers, okay? And then we're going to find the smartest way to connect with them. The second one, we're going to define your exact KPIs that drive consistent revenue. Third one, we're going to design an offer that you love and your clients love. Now, the fourth one is we're going to run a cash sprint in the first 30 days to re-engage your network and generate results fast. So step 1 on building your sales engine is to find your 20% customers and finding the smartest way to reach them. Now, with most business owners, 20% of our customers are generating 80% of our income. Okay, just think about this for a second. This is huge. 20% of your customers are generating 80% of your income. So focusing on these customers is the smartest way to scale your business and income fast. To do this, to figure out who these are, we're going to start by writing out a list of all your current customers. Then we're going to ask how much each of them are paying us. So write that down per month, how much each of those customers is paying you per month. Then you want to figure out what specifically does it cost for each of these customers. Like, is there a specific cost for those customers? We don't want your overheads of your business, specific costs for each of those customers. Then we want to figure out how many hours per month you're spending with those customers. So write that down as well. This can be approximate, okay? It doesn't have to be exact. Don't turn this into a mathematical exercise, okay? Just write it down roughly. Then what we want to do in the final column, we want to subtract the income from them. We've got the income, we want to subtract from that the cost of working with that customer. Okay, so we've got an approximate profit of working with that customer. Then with that figure, we want to divide that by the hours. Okay, and then we're going to get a rough figure of how much it costs per hour to work with that client. And this is going to allow you to see your 20% customers straight away. And this is huge. Virtually no two customers are the same. Okay, we know this. There will definitely be people on this list that are taking a lot of effort, a lot of time to give them the results. Okay, and those people, you might think they're really good clients, but actually you're spending way too long on them, way too much energy on that person. Okay, so maybe they're not an 80% client, but they're not a 20% client. On that list, there'll definitely be some people who are low effort and you're earning a lot more from them. Okay, and these are your 20% client. But the powerful thing is, again, 100% on that list will be certain clients who you need to stop working with. You don't have to stop working with them, but definitely don't take any new ones on. So now we know this. Now we understand who our 20% customer is. We need to define and build a detailed profile of that customer. From here, we can really think smart. Where does this customer hang out? And what's the most effective way to connect with this customer? Also, look at what's already worked. Where are you currently getting customers? But let's also think outside the box. There's nearly always a simpler and smarter way to get there. Now, the next key part of building your sales engine is your KPIs. Okay, now these are your key performance indicators. These become simple, trackable numbers you hit each week. Now, your KPIs are virtually always like this. First one is conversations. We need to understand that all clients, all sales happen in conversations. Okay, so we want to track the total conversations with clients. The next one is sales conversations. So we want to record the total number of sales conversations we're having per week. The third one is the total amount you propose, the total quotes, the value of the quotes you're sending out in a whole week. Okay, and we want to do these all on a weekly basis because we want to review and assess them on a weekly basis. And the final one is the amount you're actually charging per week, the amount you're actually making per week. Okay, and the really important thing to understand is the amount you're quoting. If you're not quoting 10,000 a month, there's no way you can be earning 10,000 a month. Okay, so these values are directly proportional to each other. But a lot of people are scared of saying their number. Okay, so this exercise really gets you saying your number and seeing it as a win when you say your number. Even if someone says no, you're still getting a value from there. And that's really powerful. This provides us with so much clarity, these KPIs, over what you're doing and where your customers are coming from. Now, clarity in your KPIs is huge. With myself, I went from no clear plan for client acquisition to measurable and repeatable numbers I can track. And when I hit those numbers, guess what? I can really relax. But without these, how can you ever really relax? How can you really scale and grow what you're doing too? Now, KPIs might seem really simple because they are simple, but they're huge. With every client I work with, KPIs make a huge impact. Now, the next stage on this is to realize that each of your KPIs is a trainable skill, and this skill is our ability to communicate value. This is a 20% task because improving this alone can easily double your income. Now, every business owner I've ever worked with has been able to really improve their skill at communicating. And it's very rare that business owners are communicating with value, but it's really important and really powerful. When we start communicating with value to clients, and this value should easily outweigh the cost of investment in our service, then a client signs up because it becomes a no-brainer. Now, I want to say it here, I'm not into sales. I don't try and do pushy sales at all. This is 100% not why any of us got into business. It's not enjoyable, okay? But when we start communicating value, we see the value in our service, and we suddenly love sales. We fall in love with sales again. So it becomes really easy. You really should love your offer, and your clients should too. And the communicating value in this is key. The best way to explain this is to walk you through another client example. So I went through this with my client, Rachel. Now, Rachel, she's a VA for business owners, okay? Now, what Rachel does, she does so many things. She was communicating the details of what she did. Okay, and this is really common. This is how most people are selling their services. They're talking about the things they do. They make their service seem really complicated, and it becomes really hard to describe what you do because it is quite complicated. You do a lot of things, okay? So Rachel loved what she did. She's really good at what she did, but she didn't enjoy selling it at all because it seemed overcomplicated and she felt she really didn't stand out. So the problem here was she struggled to explain the value in what she did. And again, this is a negative cycle as well. So because she didn't enjoy it, she was less likely to sell it as well. Okay, because she wasn't excited to sell it, people were less likely to sign up. So what me and Rachel did is we sat down and we thought about where's the real value for her clients. Okay, now what she did was she did so many different tasks for business owners. Okay, but the value for those business owners, we realized quite quickly, was in their time. Often the business owners she worked with, their time was worth at least £100 an hour. Okay, and she'd often do 10 to 20 hours a week for them. She'd get them back 10 to 20 hours a week. So that would be £1,000 to £2,000 a week of their time she gets back to them. So that's £4,000 to £8,000 a month. Okay, and her costs are a fraction of this. So can you see how simple it is for her to communicate value now when she talks about that? So when Rachel now describes her service, she just says, I help business owners save 10 to 20 hours a week of their time. Wow. Okay, so business owners are like, wow, that's brilliant. Okay, so and she also says, so they can focus on the tasks that they're great at, that really make them money. Okay, so it's a much more compelling story. And then when she's talking to business owners, she talks value. Okay, she says to them, okay, tell me, how much time do you spend on admin, emails, your calendar, customer support a month? And typically they'll say, yeah, 10 to 20 hours. Wow. And then she asks them, okay, because you need to ask people these things. You can't tell them. Then she asks them, well, how much is your time worth? How much do you charge yourself out at? Okay, and when they say £100, she'll be like, wow, okay, so that's 20 hours, £100. That's half your time a week. So £2,000 a week of your time you are spending doing a task that I can do for you for just a couple of £100. Can you see that's an absolute no-brainer? It's really easy to sign that person up. And the big shift here for Rachel is not the fact that business owners are much more likely to sign up, because they are, okay? The big shift is suddenly she saw how much value she added and the positive impact she had on their lives. So overnight she went from not enjoying it, not enjoying her business and not going out there and talking to people, to loving what she does and being excited to go out there and help people. Now with Rachel, we did lots of things, but mainly because of just how she communicated, she doubled her own income in 3 months, okay? So this is incredibly powerful, communicating value. The final stage of building a sales engine is the 30-day cash sprint, which I run with all of my clients. This nearly always pays for the full investment of coaching with me for 6 months, okay? Now, this is how to do it. So you've got a new offer now, a new powerful offer that people are going to love. So we need to go out and share this with your current network. You know, as I said before, a key part of sales is understanding that sales are made through relationships. And the more you know and trust someone, the more likely you are to buy from them. Okay, this makes sense, doesn't it? Okay, but despite this, most people are focused on outreaching and meeting new people. Think about that. It's true, isn't it? Okay, rather than the people they already know and they already have relationships with. These people are warm leads. They like us, they use us, and also they're likely to recommend us. So now that we have a new offer, we must get back in touch with these people. We must reconnect and we must share it. A great example of this is my client, James. Now, James was a fractional leader and he was brilliant at what he does as a leader in companies, but he now wanted to focus on fractional work. And he did this because it would give him a lot more flexibility and work-life balance. Okay, and also he'd be able to maintain the same income, hopefully. Okay, now he'd been trying this on his own for 6 months and he'd only really had one small engagement. So that means when we started working together, he had no idea how to find roles. And he was trying these 3 main things. He was networking online, he was doing cold email outreach, and he was doing LinkedIn outreach as well. And he was getting very little traction with these. So I started with his KPI and I got him figuring that out first. We figured out all sales come from conversations. So we figured out his conversations, his sales conversations, his total proposals, and his income. We made him a sheet for all of these. So the first thing is conversations with his ICP, his ideal customer profile. Now we had to build these up and we realized that he had a huge list of people in his network who were warm, These were people he'd worked with over the years, okay? So these were people who could make use of him and also recommend him. But he found reaching out to these hard. So we dug into this and we realized he thought he had to sell to these people, okay? And instead we changed this. And I want to change this for you too. It's a conversation. It's about catching up with them. I want to, transform this for you right now, okay? This is really powerful. Most business owners are going out there trying to have sales conversations with as many people as possible, okay? But as I've just said, sales are made in relationship. So when you go out there and just try and make friends and build relationships, it's completely different. It's enjoyable, isn't it? That's an enjoyable idea, okay? It's enjoyable, and also it's much more effective because everyone else there is sell, sell, sell. So you really stand out, okay? When I go to a network, I go there to make friends, and people are like, oh, wow, I love Duncan, okay? Because I'm there to make friends, okay? And people really respond well to that. Okay, so this is a huge shift, and this was a really big shift for James. Suddenly, he was like, yeah, I can reach out to those people, just have a conversation. That's much easier. And we did other things too, but the main thing we focused on him, because he had such a great list, was he had to send out 10 messages a week. Okay, that's it, just by doing this. The main thing he did was this, okay? Send out 10 messages and respond to those messages and have meetings with those people, okay? And this was the main thing that allowed him to, in 4 months, get fully booked. He was working 4 days a week. He was fully booked after just sending out 10 messages a day, obviously, and following these up. Now, the great thing is he now has a waiting list as well because he had so many irons in the fire. Okay, so it's put him in a fantastic position for the future. So when we run all 3 of these things together, impossible goals, the leverage system, and also we build a sales engine, doubling your income whilst reducing your workouts becomes very straightforward. Here's why the 20% method isn't complicated. It's actually simpler. It's really important to understand that because I'm going through a lot today. This is a simpler way to live. Before, I had no clarity over where customers were coming from, so I was working every hour in the day to outreach to as many sources as I could. Now, I know exactly where my customers come from, and it takes me much less time. So I'm spending less time than before. When I focus on the 20% high value tasks, it means I can really scale and grow my business and have a fantastic work-life balance too. When we stop being busy, everything improves together. My skill at communicating value improves, my skill at my service improves, and my success and my own income improves. But most importantly, my quality of life improves. The reason we're doing all of this, okay? Now I want to give you a powerful shift in your thinking. And when you grasp this, you can really understand how to achieve a lot more in less time. When I first heard of the Pareto principle, right, which is the 80-20 rule, I loved it, okay? But I found it really difficult to grasp and most importantly, to implement it. Now the first thing to understand is the 80-20 principle is a more accurate understanding for how the world actually works. Okay, it describes the cause and effects. But to understand this, we must understand that big things exist. Okay, so if big things exist, then all actions are not equal. This means that certain actions will have a higher impact than others. Okay, makes complete sense, doesn't it? But this means in your business, there's certain actions that are going to bring you a much greater return on your time than other actions. So the more time you're able to spend on these actions, the more leverage you do for your time, your income, and your value. But despite this, very few people are going to tell you to work less, to work smarter. Okay, so we've got to stop listening to these people. And also, when you find yourself busy, realize you're holding yourself back. Okay, I want to give you a great analogy here. So imagine that really is going to help you understand the 80-20 method, okay, and high impact. Okay, so I want you to imagine a fisherman. Now, the fisherman he's going to the local river to catch fish to feed his family. Okay, chances are first few days he's not going to catch any fish because he doesn't know where the fish are. Well, let's fast forward to he understands the river now, okay, and he can catch 1 to 2 kilos in a full 8-hour day, enough to feed his family. But he is working all day in order to do that. A much smarter way to do this would be to fly over to Canada, charter a boat, and go and catch yourself some tuna. Now, a tuna can be 600 kilos in size. We're allowed to catch 3 at once. So you could do this for a long weekend, catch some tuna and then fly back and you've got enough food to feed your whole family 6 months. Okay, so you'd only have to do this twice a year. Whereas the other guy is working every single day. He can't miss a day without feeding his family. Can you see the power of this? Does this analogy help you understand? Big fish are out there for us. Okay, you've got to figure out who your big fish are. And the impossible goals method helps us see that we went through earlier. Another important thing to understand, the tuna analogy is really good. It's difficult, isn't it? Doing the 20% actions are challenging. Okay, flying out to Canada is expensive, hiring a boat's expensive, but it massively pays for itself. Okay, and tuna fish are scary. Okay, 20% tasks are often scary. They're the ones we put off. Okay, but it's so powerful. Now, I want to give you some key insights on the 20% method. Now, so that this will apply to your own business, so you can start achieving more straight away. Now, the first thing you need to do is you need to set an impossible goal. Now, remember, this needs to be so big, you can't achieve it if you carry on doing what you're currently doing. It forces you to change, to think outside the box. So make sure it's 10 times bigger than what you're currently doing. Once we've done this, we've now got a clear image of our future self. Next, we can figure out our 20%. Now, earlier we went through roles. Now we want to look at the future roles of that person. And this is really powerful and different. We want to figure out what the future roles of that person is. Ask that person, who are your customers now? Who are you connected to now? What events are you going to now? And what have you stopped doing? And what are your new standards? This is a really cool one. What are the new standards of your business? Because we can bring those in now, can't we? How does your future self communicate? Write that down. We've been through that. We know this is powerful. And this is a skill we must practice and develop. From here, we can create a step-by-step plan. I give all my clients a journal where we do this. We write out a 12-week step-by-step plan. Each day, they write out where they are, that future self in this journal, and then we write out those big tasks that are going to get us there. Finally, you need to create your own sales engine. This should be a really reliable system. You do X, you get Y. So this is really scalable too. Only then can you grow way beyond just doubling your income. So finally, these all fit together really nicely under this less is more principle. Also, once we have a clear, repeatable system, we can achieve a lot more by doing less. But the less is really important. This gives us the time to improve our communication and our service. It also gives us the energy to do the big, challenging things. But most importantly, it gives us the ability to really enjoy the fantastic lives that we've built. Okay, so less is so important. So this is my 20% method. But this final part is really important. I myself have seen huge benefits and so have my clients, but it's not about being perfect. It's just about doing more of the big, high impact things and less of the things that are holding ourselves back. So finding your 20% is a process of learning to see the world differently. And the community I've built is a huge part of shifting this both for me and for my clients. If you want to achieve more by doing less and build your own sales engine without having to work long hours and without feeling overwhelmed, then drop me a message on LinkedIn. I'll put my details in the description below. Alternatively, you can book a call straight to my calendar too, and I'll put those details there too. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you learned something from it too. Now, the key thing to achieving anything in life is first figuring out what you really want and then figuring out the smartest way to get there.